Hope everyone's had a great Flex Day so far. We really appreciate you coming by our session this afternoon, Title V, Redefining Student Ready. And our objective today is we're going to give you an overview of both Title V in general, but also more specifically, our latest Title V grant for the campus, which is titled Redefining Student Ready, so that you'll be aware of the projects that we're working on and activities that are going on within this Title V program. And so just thank you again for being here. I know we will have people coming in since it's just a little after 1 p.m. So we'll go ahead and continue on. For those of you who I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is David Childers, and I am the Director of Title V programs for Fresno City College. And as you can see from this slide here, that means I have the incredible pleasure of working with what I think is the best team on campus, of course. These three amazing, hardworking, dynamic ladies that are here with us today helping us present the information. If you've ever had the pleasure of working or interacting with any one of these three or two or three of them, then you know how fortunate I am to have that opportunity on a daily basis. And I really want to start off by thanking them for their incredible work and everything that's been going on, despite the immense challenges we're all facing right now in the midst of the pandemic. And also for your notes, you can reach out to any of us at any time, and we'll talk a little bit later too about how to do that. But we're all very willing to answer questions at any time about any of the work that's going on with Title V. So again, thank you, Jackie, Linda, and Gloria for being here today and for all of your help. And I will turn it over to Gloria momentarily.
Thank you, David, for your kind words. It's a pleasure working with all of you. My name is Gloria Flores, and I'm the Title V Office Assistant. I just want to go over some housekeeping rules during this session. Please make sure that you have signed into your Zoom account with either your Fresno City College email or an email that does state your name. That is how attendance will be taken for all the Flex Day sessions. This session is being recorded, and because it is being recorded, if you are not speaking, we ask that you please mute your mics. That way the noise doesn't affect the recording of the session. If you have any questions or have something to share, please use the raise hand button that is located on the participant window or under reactions. The location of that button depends on the Zoom version that you are using, so be mindful of that. You may also use the chat window to ask or leave questions and comments, and I will be monitoring the chat box. So if you have any questions, we'll definitely go ahead and ask the presenters in order to help you with your questions. Please be conscious of the time. We are gonna end the session at 2:15, and I will be giving everyone a reminder of we have 10 minutes prior to the ending of the session, or 5 minutes. So one last thing, we wanna give a special thank you to our interpreter for this session, Terry Barkman. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Great, thank you, Gloria. Appreciate all of those notes. So I want to begin. I know for some of you, Title V may not be a familiar term or program, and in the larger scope of things, this grant specifically comes out of the Department of Education, the United States Department of Education. This is what we like to say the Roman numeral and not the other numeral, right? Title V that governs our work in California. This is the federal one with the Roman numeral 5. And more specifically, we received the funding for these projects because we are a part of the Hispanic serving institutions in the United States. So there are several hundred Hispanic serving institutions throughout the country. The bar is pretty low to meet the threshold. You just have to have 25% or higher of your enrollment be of Hispanic or Latinx background. So we obviously far exceed that. And we are one of the larger Hispanic serving institutions in California. and have been receiving this Title V funding through that program for many years. So programs that preceded me, such as Camino, that some of you may be familiar who have been here for a longer time, have all come out of this Hispanic Serving Institution program. And I always like to lead with that because I think it's very important for us to remember where this funding comes from and why we receive it. Because once the funding comes, we get very busy spending it. And I think that it's very important for us to remember that we qualify for this funding and we receive this funding based upon the fact that we are one of the largest, most important Hispanic serving institutions anywhere in the country and including California. And so this student base and this student population is what makes all of this possible. We'll go ahead and advance. So I would like now to introduce two of my amazing colleagues that I mentioned earlier. That this would be Jackie Williams and Linda Koboshagawa. They are going to talk to you about one of the most exciting pieces of this new grant program, which is our plans for first year experience. So I will turn that over to Jackie and Linda now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today and for your time and attention. So one of the major projects under the Redefining Student Ready grant is creating a first year experience program for Fresno City College. And right now, our work toward that goal is taking place primarily in the form of a first year experience task force that is underneath the Guided Pathways work group. And so as part of that, we have constituents from all over the campus that are representing their different areas in the work of Guided Pathways. And we also felt it was really important as we were doing this work that we be in communication with the deans and VPs representing admin. We have several deans and VPs that serve on the work group. And then we have invited several campus constituency groups, including Fresno Unified and some community groups that represent families and parents of, the new first-time students that are going to be coming into Fresno City College. And so we've been meeting for the last year and doing different activities to help us plan for, and then create the best possible first year experience program for Fresno City's population. There are many different kinds of first year experience programs. And so we started this work by researching the different existing first year experience programs that are out there. We looked at colleges throughout California, community colleges, state colleges, and universities. We tried to look at colleges that were similar in terms of size and demographics. We also looked at colleges that had long-standing first-year experience programs. And then we even went out of state and looked at some award-winning and recognized first-year experience programs at out-of-state colleges. And so what we did was we sort of collected all of the different things that they were doing as part of a first year experience, all of the different experiences that they were offering to their students. And that could be cohorted classes, it could be free textbooks, it could be special orientation for new incoming students. So we made a list of all of the different things that we were seeing. And then we sent that list out in a survey to everyone on the task force and also to some students, current students of Fresno City College, and asked them for their feedback. What did they think would be the most important aspects for better serving the students of Fresno City? And so now we're using that feedback to shape what our final plan for our first year experience program is going to look like. So we've identified all of these different possibilities for what might be in our official first year experience program when we do launch that. Now, unfortunately, of course, due to COVID-19 and the move to remote learning, we weren't able to fully launch this program as early as we wanted to. We were initially hoping for a fall 2021 launch. But instead, we're going to use this time to launch a smaller prototype program. And what we're doing is we are planning some customized teaching and learning communities. So on the previous slide, I had the 5 different pathways that the RAM pathways that have been identified through our guided pathways work. And so we're going to invite students from those 5 pathways into 5 contextualized math and English classes. We're calling it customized teaching and learning because the word contextualized may not really ring with students. And so the flyer that you're looking at is a beautiful draft flyer that was put together by our Leading from the Middle team here on campus that is helping us to work through the logistics of putting together this prototype. But we are going to be rewording this a little bit. And so one of the things we wanted to emphasize is that for the students in these cohorts, we're going to be customizing the content that they encounter in their math and English classes to make it more relevant to the pathways that they've expressed interest in. So it doesn't actually change any of the course requirements in terms of the course outline, but it gives them an opportunity to maybe see math problems that are very similar to what they'll be doing in their field of study, or do an English research paper on a topic related to their career interests. So that's something that we are going to be working on, and we are going to be marketing. We're going to have one section for each pathway. And so we're going to be marketing these at Reg to Go this semester. That's what the flyer is for. And we also wanted to make sure that we were supporting our students through this. So we are going to have an embedded tutor as part of the program. So in their math and their English class, we're going to guarantee that there is an embedded tutor so that they have that additional support inside the classroom. And then we're going to offer support to the faculty that are participating to help them get ready for this customized teaching and learning experience. So the plan is to launch this in fall of 2021 with 5 sections. And then the same students will take, so if they take math in the fall, they'll take English in the spring and vice versa. And they'll be with the same classmates who are in their field of interest, on the same pathway as them for a full year, really building relationships. Our plan for the full launch, and I'm going to ask David and Linda to add anything that I forget here. But we're looking at a lot of different possibilities. The surveys that we've done have been really insightful, but some of the things that students and the constituents in the group were most interested in were having registration assistance. So helping students get registered for the right classes that are part of the first year experience program. Trying to have the classes tied to FYE be no cost courses. So courses that are using OER, having embedded tutors as we expand the program, having embedded tutors in any classes that are associated with FYE. The grant also has space for student navigators. So students that are more experienced FCC students to help them, navigate all the different things that come with being a student for the first time. Special FYE events and field trips, academic coaching, job counseling, and so many more options. Did I miss anything that I should share?
No, that was great.
Okay, all right. All right, so we have another project. Linda, if you want to take the lead on this one.
Yeah, I'll talk about the new Employee Equity Academy. And for those of you who I'm not familiar with, my name is Linda Kawashigawa. I'm a librarian, but I received 50% release time to work as part of the Title V team for this year. So it's been a great opportunity. to be part of strategic planning at the college. So it's really been a privilege to work with Title V and have all these great conversations and everything. So the new Employee Equity Academy, or onboarding is another term that has been used for it. It's part of the student equity plan that if you were at convocation yesterday, Ray Ramirez talked about the equity plan and all of the efforts that they've been putting forward. So it's an integral part of that. It's another example too of Title V working synergistically, if that's the right word, with other departments and throughout campus to make FCC a more equitable place for our Black and Brown students. So the NEEA, and I took this actually from that equity website. So it builds upon previous campus efforts to provide onboarding and mentorship, and offers a more deliberate and comprehensive orientation for all new FCC employees. So not just faculty, but also classified staff and administration. So it combines foundational information, resources, and tools to foster student equity while orienting new employees to the equity-minded commitment and culture of Fresno City College. So it includes things like the 3-day orientation, the slide that's up. And this was developed by a whole bunch of amazing individuals from Student Equity, Title V, Guided Pathways, other people I'm probably forgetting. And it serves as a starting point for employees to think about how we teach and support students from historically marginalized communities, and recognizing the practices both personally and institutionally that might reinforce barriers to their success, and also examining how to work to remove those barriers was my interpretation of the 3-day orientation. And so in addition to race consciousness, the pieces of employee effort, employee care, responsibility, and institutional commitment are integral to equity-minded education and move the campus towards being student ready and closing those achievement gaps for students who are disproportionately impacted. So the 3-day orientation, it includes things like the employees go through lectures, readings, they have breakout sessions and discussions that are related to getting to know who our students are. They look at data collected from IR about campus demographics, student survey responses, disaggregated success data, things like that. They also go through campus resources, so support for both students and faculty so that they're aware of, or I'm sorry, students and employees, so that they're aware of what's available to students should a student come to them with a certain need or issue that they're having. I went, I think it was day 2 of the training, myself and Shashanik Silvas from the WRC and DSPS, and we presented about all of our services and resources for students one of those days. There are also trainings and discussions around if you've done any of the CORA trainings, so things like bias, microaggressions, race conscious and culturally affirming teaching, equity-minded teaching and online education. So there are a lot of discussions and workshops around those concepts, as well as more general things like helping students get used to online learning and your course and accessibility and different things like that that we all need in our courses. Next slide, Jackie. Okay. And so this was all housed for a little while on, I'm going to forget the name of that third party host board. Do you remember?
Adelaide.
Yes. So it was housed on there, but we decided that a Canvas shell would probably be the best place to house all of these things. So the Canvas shell that we created serves sort of like three purposes. So it is a repository for that 3-day orientation. So the employees who went through that 3-day orientation can go back and find everything that all of the documents, the recorded discussion sessions, and what workshops, things like that, all in this Canvas shell. And so Jackie and I worked on this together. It also houses some broader equity-minded resources. So the Black Minds Matter webinar recordings that were held, or the sessions that were held over the summer, the recordings are also housed in that Canvas shell. Marianne Valentino's equity-minded syllabus training is in there, and we also included an anti-racist and racial equity-minded suggested reading list. And so if you have any suggestions for that, please send them our way. I know we haven't included all of these great resources. We've just started adding books. So definitely want to look at more training recordings, articles, all kinds of resources to add to that. And then we also figured that this would be helpful, not just for new employees, but for all employees. So we do want it to serve as continued support for employees. So it began as like a hub or repository for those new employees, but we feel it's important to expand access to everyone. So it's also a location for the faculty support guides to house their resources. So Jackie will talk about that in just a moment. Just a general support hub too for accessing campus and district resources. So there was part of the academy where, you know, they went through how to find your contract, how to contact HR, different things like that. And so when deadlines are coming up and what you need to do for those. So we've also included a module for that information as well.
Linda, Dean Dr. Cooper mentioned that the planning group for Faculty Academy included representatives from Academic Senate, Classified Senate, Counseling and Student Services, Office of Instruction, Student Equity, Guided Pathways, Library, and Learning Student Services. Thank you, Dean Cooper.
Yes, thank you, Donna. Yeah, so I knew I forgot a lot of people, so thank you for mentioning all of them.
All right, and thank you, Linda, for doing a full introduction of yourself. I forget sometimes that I haven't met everybody yet. So if we haven't met before, I'm Jackie Williams. I'm English faculty here, and I'm also serving under the grant 50%, and I am the instructional coordinator. That's my role underneath the grant. So one of the portions of that new employee equity academy is ongoing mentorship, specifically in the area of equity. So as you may or may not be aware, you know, under the current contract, folks that are going through the tenure process have their tenure committee, and then they can have a mentor within their discipline. What we're doing is something a little bit different. We're functioning as equity guides. And so there are several of us serving in this role, and the new faculty that attended the 3-day orientation were then assigned a guide to have ongoing meetings regularly throughout the semester, just an opportunity to talk about what is going on in their classes through that equity lens. And so it was an opportunity for reflection, an opportunity to ask questions, not just of their guide, but of their entire group. And each equity guide sort of had their own approach to it, but we led our members through different equity-mindedness activities to get them to think about you know, how possible different ways to handle a situation could potentially impact students or classroom culture, different ways to approach activities, grading, all sorts of different topics. And so that is something that will be part of the program going forward. And whenever we have each new batch of hires, after they do that initial orientation, then they'll have this ongoing mentorship through their first semester. I apologize, I muted myself. There are some plans for expansion. And so these are some things that we are hoping to bring in the future as we move through the grant. But One of the things we received in terms of feedback from the first group was maybe some additional workshops through that first semester as specific topics come up, like grading or policies for attendance, adding and dropping students, those kinds of things. So reaching out to different groups on campus and having them talk to our new faculty about how the decisions they make in terms of classroom management might impact students in a larger way, like meeting with financial aid, meeting with A&R to learn a little bit more about the way these things impact students. We also plan to launch a version of this academy for adjunct faculty and staff. So right now it is available to full-time faculty and staff only, but we're hoping to expand that in the future so that all new hires for Fresno City College do get this expanded orientation and equity guidance. And then if you're interested, and Linda will go ahead and put this in the chat for everyone, but the Canvas shell that she mentioned earlier is live and it is a self-enrollable course. So if you're interested in seeing the materials and resources that were shared, then you can go ahead and just follow that link and you can self-enroll yourself into that course and see the materials that were shared with the new hires.
Great. Thank you, Jackie and Linda. The next section that we want to cover for everyone revolves around student support and connection activities within the grant. So redefining Student Ready was really about us taking a look as an institution, and specifically as a Hispanic serving institution, and recognizing that it's no longer viable for us to sit back and expect quote unquote college ready students, that we had to be more proactive as an institution to make ourselves ready for the students that we receive, no matter where they're at. So that helps kind of formulate that title, and really the objectives are measurable objectives for students, all revolve around the goals and objectives that are established at statewide on the scorecard. So we're looking at increasing student success, of course, enrollment in English and math, which you heard a little bit about earlier, reducing the number of units that students complete while they're on campus, all things that we think will make our institution stronger in terms of serving students. A few more specific activities that we'll be doing, and we can advance here, Jackie, is we are working on what we are titling a student engagement center. And this is a hope that we have for a physical space on campus, just to provide another area where students can feel welcomed, where they can congregate, and most importantly, where they can get their questions answered. So we envision this space, and I have to say envision because of COVID-19, we have not been able to be on campus to really push this forward. But we envision this space as something in between a library and an activity center. And one of the centerpieces of what we've written into the grant was that this would be the place where all students could be directed to get questions answered. And I know that all of us who have worked on campus have been in that position before, where we encounter a student and they have a question and we don't know exactly how to answer that, and we try to do our best and direct them to the right place, and we have great intentions. Perhaps we don't send them to the correct place, and then now they have to be redirected. We know that this happens on the phones as well. And so these are things we're trying to do better as an institution in serving our students, and providing this one area where we will have student mentor staffing that will be familiar with the campus and the resources. And I think this will be great for all of our constituents, because rather than having to guess and risk guessing wrong, we would all have this one central location where we could direct students to get that help that they need. Depending on the size of that space, we would also like to be able to provide services on a regular basis, kind of satellite services, if you will, so that there would be a time where financial aid or the registrar or counseling or other departments might be able to put themselves right into the middle of that space and do some outreach to students in that manner. So a lot is still yet to be determined as far as functionality and physical location for this, but this is a big piece of the grant and definitely something that we will be pursuing as much as possible. The other picture there, and I think I know which one of my colleagues asked about the iPhone 2 in the picture, that is representing our soon to be dedicated mobile application for Fresno City College specifically. We looked around and we saw that there were some institutions, both in California and nationwide, that were doing a much better job than we were at meeting students' technology needs where they're at, which is in the mobile world, versus our tendency to want to put things onto the web page. We know that students don't access the web page or their email, it turns out, as frequently as we do. That's not their workflow. And so we're trying to use that student workflow to get information to them more efficiently. We are forming right now an advisory group for putting features together that we would like to see in this mobile application. I surveyed vice presidents and asked them to recommend individuals within their departments and teams that might be interested in this. We have a pretty good list already, but certainly if anybody here is interested in helping to guide the development of that mobile application and what kinds of features might be included, please let us know, and we'll have some information in the last slide about how to reach out to us and get involved. So 2 big pieces for student engagement here: that physical space of the Student Engagement Center, and then the mobile application, which of course we will be making available on Android and Apple to serve our students as best as we can in that environment.
All right, next we're going to look at some of the faculty supports that are coming to you under Title V.
This is OER. Okay, so I'm going to talk briefly about open educational resources and where they fit in with Title V. What we really wanted to do with OER is embed it into the first year experience. So Jackie did mention this briefly in her explanation of the first year experience. And we wanted to do this for a few different reasons. So number one is that we know that textbook cost is a huge barrier for students. And when you use OER materials, even zero textbook cost ETC materials, that means they are free and available to students as soon as you open your course. And so, there are numerous studies that are out about textbook cost. I went to Sally Potter's OER session this morning, and she gives a lot of great quotes from students from those nationwide and state surveys from students about what it takes to actually purchase the $200, $300 textbook, which is just crazy. And our students as well, when we surveyed them, they say that free or low cost textbooks and course materials are extremely important to very important. I don't think we sent out a couple of surveys to students for Title V as we were planning the first year experience prototype, and students overwhelmingly said that textbooks were important. This quote on the screen is from that survey. So this experience should be made as accessible as possible. They're talking about the first year experience. If possible, textbooks and course materials should be free. So we know that that's extremely important to students and is a huge barrier to them. So that's one reason why we wanted to include OER as part of the first year experience. And we also feel that OER, can you stay on that slide? Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm not ready.
Sorry.
We also feel that it gives faculty the opportunity to create, remix, and adapt textbooks and materials that have the pathway themes to those cohorts that Jackie talked about earlier, directly into their primary course material. So it makes it more relevant, more accessible to students. It's not, supplemental that, I just kind of pulled in a couple websites and a couple articles for students to read that have this theme included in them or this subject area focus, but it is embedded in that textbook. It includes all of that subject area information that you've created specifically for your course. And so, there's a lot more independence and flexibility when you are using OER. It does take a lot of work to create and adapt these OER materials, but you do get that flexibility with the material. You're not worrying about ordering things from the bookstore and then the bookstore running out of books or students buying the old edition. What you create is exactly what you want to use and how you want to use it in those courses. And a lot of the surveys about OER that students respond to, they do say things like, well, I can tell my instructor really cared about this because the textbook was specifically about this topic, and I know they created it for that, and it was free for us, so it was extra helpful for that. And then OER is also part of just a broader effort to move more towards the adoption of OER is for equitable access to materials and to college for students in general, not just as part of the FYE program. Okay, next slide. Okay, so we do have a work group that we are developing. So we are still in that first phase of recruiting faculty, and I'm probably going to miss someone in this group too. So I know we have Jackie has done call outs in Academic Senate, and we have English, communications, Spanish, and psychology. But we do want and need voices from other pathways, other divisions and departments. So particularly the health and STEM pathway, tech and trades, and am I missing anybody? Maybe culture and society. I can't remember exactly what's in that one, but those three, and we'll also tell you how you can get involved in that. So the next portion, once we've recruited all of those areas, is we want to explore and develop and find and figure out how to develop and adapt OER with, of course, support from Sally Potter, myself, Jackie, and other faculty who are currently using or have created OER, because there are quite a few on campus who are doing that. Part of the charge of the work group, and we can, once we have our actual people in the group, we can nail down what the charge is going to be. But some ideas that we had were looking into grants, fundings for potential stipends or release time. I'm right now looking at hosting sites to host all of our faculty created OER. So that can be something also that the work group can work on. And also, of course, building an ongoing OER presence on campus, holding workshops, giving, again, OER more of a presence, even in the new Employee Equity Academy as well. And then we do know that the district did send, you may have seen it come through your inbox about OER and textbook costs to faculty, but they also send it to students. So that's also something that we need to explore further, is getting more of that student voice, but also seeing who exactly on campus is using OER and how they're using it. So overall goal is to increase the usage of open educational resources on campus, and we are starting with the FYE program.
Linda, we had Janine make a comment. I don't know, Janine, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, if you would like me to read your comment in the chat.
Sorry, I was just listening along and moved my mic. I just wanted to mention that Josie that works in our college relations office, she's full-time and she answers and fields phone calls constantly from students who are seeking things, support. And so I just wanted to pop in there and mention to you for the mobile application, check with her because she can really give you some good insight. She's been doing it for so long. I know plenty of our staff can too, but sometimes she gets forgotten and she is a valuable asset to our company.
Thank you for that comment. We'll make sure to also include classified staff. Thank you.
Another project in terms of faculty support underneath the Title V grant is the development of a professional learning center. And so this is going to be a dedicated space on campus where we have professional development and training opportunities. So we are still in the development stage. An exact location for the center has not been determined yet, but once we have the center open, we are planning, and if we're virtual for much longer, some of these things might be offered online as well. But we're planning on bringing a variety of professional learning opportunities to the campus. Some of the suggestions that we've received that we think would be great for the work that we're trying to do in terms of getting ourselves more student ready would be things like on-course training, culturally responsive pedagogy trainings, student engagement strategies, and we're definitely open to suggestions. There's going to be an opportunity at the end of the presentation where if you have other suggestions, you can send those to us. And then the Professional Learning Center will also be, not just a space for these larger, more formal training sessions, but we're hoping that dedicated space will also be a place where smaller groups, if you have, for example, a training that you want to do just within your department or your service area, then you can use the Professional Learning Center space to do that as well. And then back to that first year experience program, when we're talking about that customized teaching and learning experience for students, any faculty that choose to participate in that and contextualize their classes will be given the opportunity to participate in professional development to help them do that. And so some of the things that we've talked about there would be things like sharing ideas for how to contextualize projects, assignments, quiz questions, those kinds of things. So we're really looking for participation from folks from a variety of disciplines. We want to make sure that all 5 of the pathways are represented, and they can work together to kind of say, hey, like I would assign this essay in my English class. What are some of the ways that I can customize the prompt to make it more relevant to students in the health and sciences pathway, for example? And then another thing that we are hoping in terms of sort of overlapping with our other projects is that we can go through the OER that's been identified by the OER work group that they've curated, and we can review the options underneath each of the different pathways and then work together to select OER, like Linda was saying, so that, it's not just I put in a question that's relevant to your field, but like, there's a dedicated reading for the field or, related material from an online textbook or online resource that you can embed as part of your course.
Great. Thank you again, Jackie. So as we kind of come toward the end of the presentation, I want to make sure that everyone understands the importance of all of the feedback and involvement we have had in both of the Title V grants that I've been involved in managing since coming to the campus a little over 5 years ago. For those of you who maybe are not aware, originally when I came, it was to manage a cooperative Title V grant for the district. that Fresno City was the fiscal agent for. And that was a Title V grant that is still wrapping up. That was very heavy in technology. And a lot of times the things we're doing in the Title V maybe aren't as front and center and don't get as much attention. We do a lot of supporting of other projects. So in the old Title V, we were integral in helping with things like the transition from Blackboard to Canvas, the creation of the single sign-on, the creation of the portal, we professional development for faculty and staff throughout the district with Canvas. And even in terms of some more recent projects, some that were mentioned yesterday by the president, you might have heard her mention the expansion of the access points, wireless access points on campus. That's a largely Title V grant funded project. And especially we funded the additional access points that were required to get our Wi-Fi access to the parking lots to hopefully provide another opportunity for our students to access the wireless internet, even though it's far from perfect. And for this grant, when we reached out, this is going back now, over a year and a half ago in the planning phases, we brought together a fairly small but very dynamic group of stakeholders from across the campus to help us brainstorm what to include in our Title V application. Several people who were part of that group are here today, not just presenting, but also in the audience. And really it's the richness of those voices that provides for a good grant application. And we got great feedback from the readers of our grant and our evaluators who really recognized that we were intentional in terms of bringing different groups and representatives and constituents and stakeholders to the table to make sure that we made the best use of this application. And now that we've been awarded that, and we're actually fairly far into it, even though COVID can kind of mess with our timeline sometimes, we also want to provide that same level of care in terms of how we shepherd these resources that we've been given. This grant is $600,000 per year for up to 5 years. And I say up to 5 because you're not guaranteed the 5 years. You have to get renewed year to year based upon meeting objectives and how you're utilizing the funding. And a lot of it is predetermined. So we did submit budgets for the entire $3 million in case we were awarded the grant for all 5 years. But as things happen, there are these pockets of dollars that are grant savings that are created, and those become rather discretionary. And so we really appreciate all the folks coming out today to be part of this session and to hear what's going on, because we need those voices from across campus, not just to implement what's written into the grant proposal that's so important, not just to keep us focused on serving all of our students, and in particular, our Hispanic and Latinx populations, but how to guide us in terms of where we go and what projects we take on with grant savings as the grant matures and gets older and more of those savings are created. So some of the ways that you can be involved now, if you haven't already been, that one we would love to have you engaged with the activities here. The OER work group was mentioned earlier. This is for any faculty on any side of the house, on any of the Guided Pathways teams that are interested in open educational resources. So I don't want this to be a situation where someone thinks that they have to already know about this or be any kind of an expert. The work group is designed to bring together folks of all different interest levels with that common goal of increasing the amount of open educational resources that we use at Fresno City College. And I'm a big proponent of that. I'm supporting that, but the work is really being done at the faculty level where it should be. And so Linda and Jackie and Sally Potter and others are doing a great job with that. If you want to be a part of that, we would love to have you. If you are really short on time, and I know many of you are because you use the term preaching to the choir, as I glance through the participant list, there's so many familiar names because you are the individuals on campus who constantly involve yourself and give to the campus and provide so much. And we really appreciate that. But if you just don't have any more time left for something like a work group, your suggestions are very valuable. We are going to have opportunities to bring outside trainings in and professional development. And while we have a great team, and I think our team is very good at listening to the needs of the campus and assessing the needs of the campus, nothing can substitute having that input from the front lines. So if you know of great training opportunities that are out there, things that you maybe wished the college had brought in already, and we have some resources and some leverage to be able to help make that happen. And we would love to have those suggestions from all of you and any of your colleagues who maybe couldn't make it today that are interested in that. I mentioned earlier, we have the mobile app planning group. If you're interested in being a part of the group, that would be fantastic. Again, if you don't have that kind of time, but you want to just submit a list of ideas, we will take that as well. We really want that to be robust, not just for students, but for all of the constituent groups at Fresno City College. And of course, last but not least, is how can we bring content from all across campus into our cohorts? What kinds of services can we provide in the first year experience? Everyone here has been a college student at some point and knows what the challenges are, what the barriers are. And really, to me, if nothing else, Title V is about how can we step in and remove as many barriers as possible to get our students to the level of success that we all want them to achieve. So when you have ideas for those things, please pass them along. We may or may not be able to take action on them, but if you never offer up the suggestion and you never pass it on, we don't even have it to consider. So we really, really appreciate everyone who reaches out and helps provide suggestions and whatnot to make the grant better. So I mentioned earlier, you can get in contact with any of us on the team individually, but we also have a very convenient way of reaching the group, which is the Title V email address that you see on your screen. So title Roman numeral 5 at fresnocitycollege.edu. That comes in and is able to be distributed to everyone on the team. So it's a great place for us to kind of put all of the feedback that we receive from the campus and the community and others in one place. So if you have ideas for any of these, we really appreciate you putting the email together. Then we have a written copy of that. We know who it comes from, so we can go back and clarify if there are any questions and follow up, and that we can keep these top of mind for us as a team. We meet every single Monday to go over what's happening in the grant, and I think one of the standing agenda items that we would love to add is to review campus input like this as we get more of it, and help us move forward and serve the students and serve the staff, you faculty, instructional faculty, counseling faculty, classified professionals, every single stakeholder who makes Fresno City College what it is. And that's what we're here to do, is to serve. So please let us know, your ideas for how we can do that better. And
David?
we look forward to, yes.
Before we get to Gerard, Saul Fernandez had made a comment on the chat saying, maybe you can include DSPS training regarding working with DSPS students and providing accommodation in their courses and how the new hire, in their courses at the new hire faculty training.
Oh, that's a great suggestion. And I would absolutely, we'll pass that along to the planning team for that. I don't know if Jackie, if I know you're one of the guides, so do you want to speak briefly about DSPS and what might have been covered already in that?
So I didn't attend all 3 days of the new employee orientation, so I know that it was touched on, but I can't speak to everything that was covered. But I definitely am going to put it on the list of things for ongoing workshops during the semester, because I think sometimes, it really, things have to come up in our class before we know what we need to ask for, right? So I think Saul has a great suggestion there, and I'm putting that on the list of maybe ongoing workshops that we can have for the new faculty throughout that first semester that they're teaching and working, faculty and staff.
That sounds great. And I did see Dean Cooper mentioned it. Susan Ariola was one of the presenters. I did know that. So we certainly have DSPS on the radar, but again, we need those experts from those departments and those teams to help us, figure out, maybe what gaps we need to fill. So thank you so much, Saul, for that. I think Gerard might be next. Is that?
Yes, Gerard, please go ahead and unmute yourself. He says he has an idea, but it's way out of left field. We're eager to learn about your
left field.
idea.
Yeah. Well, now
Go for it, Gerard.
you guys got way too excited about that left field comment. Now I feel pressure. So when I just working with different groups or work groups or just different things with campus, I get reminded that we don't have as strong a relationship with the community as we could. And just thinking about workshops, maybe more expanded in terms of workshops for the community. We have a lot of professors and people with levels of expertise and know a lot of cool things that could be useful for our community's everyday life. So not necessarily like teaching a class, but just a seminar on real estate, or a seminar on understanding technology, or a seminar on racial issues, all these things that we're getting, but the community could benefit from as well. So I'll just, I know you're talking about training spaces or workshops, and I know our budgets are very specific to our needs, but I think it can be useful if we develop working relationships with our community and just share our knowledge without them having to sign up for a class. And then we can build a relationship, and maybe someone may want to take classes with us as we share our expertise with the community.
I don't think that's out of left field at all. That's a fantastic suggestion. Thank you very much for that. I would say we have done a little bit of what you're talking about in the past with Title V. In the old grant, we did some financial literacy work. We did a free workshop on a Saturday for the community, and they were very thankful and appreciative of being able to have resources like that. And I think that we have this opportunity with the Professional Learning Center to do things exactly like that. They don't just have to be limited to campus, because part of strengthening the institution is strengthening the community around it. And part of driving enrollment is outreach, right? So I think that's just another way of reaching out besides what we're already doing in terms of advertising and whatnot. Yeah, offering free professional development for the community makes a lot of sense. So thank you.
David, we also have a comment from Jennifer McKenzie. And she states, it would be nice to have trainings from each student service departments regularly to provide insight and if there is a general question that arises.
Great. Jennifer, would you mind maybe expanding, maybe get a couple of examples of things you think would be useful?
Well, we mentioned before that the training for the new staff, faculty, whatnot, that you have during our guided pathways meetings, I've taken notes in them, and they will bring in DPNS. They will bring in one of our departments in our division and share what they're doing. And I think that's something that we need to do as a whole for the whole campus. So everybody knows a little bit of everything. I started last year and I was there for 2 months, and I didn't get the opportunity to go around and meet everybody and find out what you do. But if we're focused on a student, I think we need to know what each department does and how it works towards the student success.
That's great. A really clear picture. Thank you for clarifying there. I do think that would be great, not just trainings, but what I'm hearing you say is just updates and insight into the work that's happening all across the campus. We are a very large campus, as we all know, and I do think it's challenging to stay informed about everything that's going on, and we can leverage the Professional Learning Center to help do that, definitely. So thank you. I appreciate that suggestion.
And I just wanted to say that I'm writing all of these down. So all the suggestions that you've made in the comments, I've got a list going. And if you
Great.
have other suggestions, I did put the Title V email address into the chat, and so you can send any of those things that that David mentioned on that last slide. Any suggestions that you have for us, if you're interested in getting involved in any of the groups, that email address is in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Do we have any other questions or comments from the group? We have a little bit of time here.
We have 13 minutes left if anybody else has any questions.
So I did want to add one thing that I was thinking of. Right now, our Guided Pathways Task Force is comprised of members from about a third of the Guided Pathways body, because we split into 3 different project task forces. And so if some of you are thinking, I don't know if my area is being represented in these conversations, I just wanted to let everyone know that going into this semester, we've restructured those work groups. And so now we're going to be meeting at staggered times so that constituents, representatives from Guided Pathways can be on every task force. And we've had a lot of folks that wanted to be on ours and had to be on another one. So we're going to see our membership go up a little bit there. But if you are concerned that maybe your area isn't represented, you can just let me know and I'll let you know who your representative is.
Great. And while we maybe give folks a little bit more time to raise hands or put questions in the chat, I do want to make sure I do my duty and remind everyone to please fill out the survey for Flex Day. That I know is very valuable data that the Professional Development Committee really leans on each semester. So if you haven't already, please remember to fill out that survey. We really appreciate that and the feedback. And the link is in the chat. So if you need the link, you can go to the chat to access that. And maybe do one more call. Please feel free just to unmute and ask your question or make a comment if you have that ability on your end. So please feel free to use that.
We have 10 more minutes if anybody else has any questions.
Okay, well, sounds like maybe we are good to move forward, so we can give everybody back about 10 minutes and get a little more of a break before your next session, which is never a bad thing. I would like to thank again my entire Title V team. Thank you, Gloria, for your facilitation. Thank you to our interpreter for making sure that we're serving our staff and walking the talk of equity and access. And thank you to Jackie and Linda for all the great information that you provided today for everyone. And mostly, thank you to all of you for coming by. We know you had a lot of choices on Flex Day, and we're really excited that you're interested in the work that we're doing, and we hope that you'll be partners in that work. And we look forward to continuing to be in communication with all of you and moving forward in the grant. So please have a great rest of your Flex Day, and even better weekend. And we look forward to seeing you virtually, and then of course, hopefully soon in person, which is the day we're all looking forward to, and I'm sure you are as well. So thank you, everyone, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone, and Happy New Year.